Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. This is the podcast to Step by Step, hosted by a Revert girl, exploring my journey into Islam. Today we're going to have a look at my past couple of weeks as an early Muslim. It hasn't been easy and I have been very overwhelmed. This podcast will be giving different tips to reverts and to Muslims who are supporting Revert friends. So I have 3 tips. 1, one step at a time. 2, the importance of friends around you. And 3, be kind to yourself. So let's look at the first step. 1 step at a time. So you've suddenly changed religion. You've suddenly made this big step. I know me personally and many other people really struggle with change. You need a second to just register the change. Don't put expectations on yourself. It is literally like my phrase constantly is 1 step at a time. So don't expect suddenly to spend a whole day reading the Quran, or suddenly you're going to go from no prayers to 5 prayers. Like, even so, let's say with the praying. So I remember the first time that I prayed, and it was amazing, as I mentioned in the previous podcast. But I remember I literally, to begin with, didn't even know what to say. I learnt the movements, and so when it came to the right time, I probably, to begin with, did about twice in a day. I would stand up, know that I had to say something, and I knew the parts where you'd have to say Allahu Akbar. So I'd put my hands to my ear, go Allahu Akbar, and then I'd put my hands below my chest and just wait, because I know I'm supposed to be saying something. Then I put my hands on my knee and I lean down, stand up again, and then I go down onto the floor. I don't say anything because I don't know, and actually at that moment in time, that's all I could deal with, because everything is so overwhelming. And then I learned the small phrases like Subhana Rabbi Azim, Subhana Rabbi Azim, Subhana Rabbi Azim, which is what you say when you have your hands on your knees looking down, and all these different phrases. And then I added Surah Al-Fatiha, which is a bit that you pray at the beginning. But the main thing is that it's the intention behind. That's what I love about Islam. It's all about the intention. I just remember when I first prayed and I finished and I put my head to the left and to the right. I think it's right then left, oh well. And I then did like a little dua. Just went, God, I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm doing. And a friend said to me, they went, it's about the intention. You don't have to apologize just because you don't know something. Like, God knows. So that's something. Like, it was definitely really hard to take something 1 step at a time. And because I am someone who is very much likes to be a know-it-all. I know it's really annoying. Everyone hates a know-it-all, but I just like to know as much as possible, and I like research. And you know, when I was a Christian, I knew so much, and I'd be one of those people who, you know, if someone had a question, I'd be like, that Bible verse says that, and that Bible says that. When it comes to this, I know nothing, and Alhamdulillah, I've learned a lot in it's now been 2.5 weeks. So I have learned absolutely tons, but it's not been easy. Like, I really did not know anything, and I realized that, you know, I didn't know anything. And in the next podcast, I'll talk about the resources and research that I have used in the past couple of weeks, because I've done a lot of research, and that's definitely helped me to be able to build myself. But it again has overwhelmed me, and there's been times that I haven't taken a step at a time. Another tip with 1 step at a time is I've told one friend at a time. I told one person at a time. I have made it personal about telling. You don't have to suddenly announce on Facebook, like, that something big's happened, like, because it's really scary and you're scared of what people will think, even if you don't want to admit it. It's natural for us to be scared of what people think. So that's another one of my tips, is just one friend at a time. Don't go and tell everyone, because there'll be lots of questions. Like, even my amazing Muslim sisters, they were like, do you want to be in this group chat? Do you want to be in this? Do you want to do this? And I'm like, no. Right now, like, to begin with, I think for the first week I told 3 people. And that was a lot, but I needed people around me to talk to, and then I slowly added people, and I think at the moment around 10 people now, and I've only told 1 Christian, 2 atheists, and the rest Muslim. That is how much of one step at a time it is. Maybe if you feel it's all about your own personal path, if you feel it's right for you and your family, you know your family, then go ahead, tell them. Just, yeah, definitely take one step at a time. Get to know yourself, get to know a lot, get to know the religion. Have a really strong foundation, because people will challenge you and you might get stumped. And there's nothing wrong with being challenged. Just saying, just because you've just started and you're trying to find your footing, you don't want to just suddenly lose your footing straight away. So yes, that's tip number 1, is to just take one step at a time. Also, with one step at a time, I would really recommend that you just focus on your relationship with God. There's all these different things going on around you. There's all these different sources online, which are so good. And in the next episode, I will be talking about my research and readings as a new Muslim and what I would recommend. But it's so important to just focus on God, because in reality, it's that relationship with God that is the most important thing. Yes, I want to increase my knowledge to get to know God better. Yes, I want to be able to worship God in my best ability. But it's my intention. It's me trying to take one day at a time, try and get to know the new aspects of God, which is in Islam. So another tip is there's something which I didn't even know before I said my Shahada, that there are the 99 names of Allah. And for me, they just give me so much peace and hope. So there's this thing called the Qur. I think I've said that wrong, but it's basically, there's this idea that you're constantly reminding yourself of Islam throughout your day. And actually there's different names of Allah which will help you through different situations. So for me, the 2 major ones for me at the beginning was Al-Haq and Al-Wahad. So Al-Haq is the truth, and Al-Wahad is one, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those 2 for me just supported me so much, because I knew that I'd found the truth and the one God, and that was what I'd been searching for so long. And so here I am, trying to remind myself of the 99 names. So what I'd say is every week, find a new name of Allah to focus on, so that you can slowly learn the different characteristics of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As I just mentioned, in one step at a time, that I told one friend at a time. But it is also important, especially if you're a Revert and your family isn't Muslim, it's so important that the friends around you are supportive and to ask questions. And I can't believe the overwhelming support, love that my friends have had for me. It blows my mind. One of my friends taught me how to pray. She taught me wudu. She taught me, at the same time, my boyfriend taught me like some of the words to say. And also another one of my friends has made like a PowerPoint on Islam. She's bought me a Quran. Like, it's absolutely insane, the support that I've got. Another one of my friends sent paragraphs of support, letting me know. They're all like, just literally give me a message and I'm here for you. And I don't know if that's going to last, but it's important to have friends. And if, you know, you're a new revert, definitely maybe go on YouTube and go to Revert stories, because there was a couple of nights that I was really struggling, and I was like literally no one understands me. Like, everyone else is born a Muslim and there's just me who's really confused, and I feel really alone here. And actually I'm not. I went on Pinterest. I'm such a white girl. I went on Pinterest and I was looking at all these different people and tips for reverts, and you know, it was so nice to know that other people were going through this confusing time too. Like, you're not alone, and it's important to have friends who are reverts as well. Thankfully, Ashraf, who was the person who led me to my Shahada, actually knows quite a few reverts, and he got me in contact with a girl who's very similar to me. And yeah, she has been a huge support. She's a couple of years older than me, and she reverted about a month before me, but we're very, very similar in the way we look at things, the way we think about things, the kind of pressures we put on ourselves. So it's very important for people to have people who are on the similar path to you, whether that is through Muslim friends and they have friends who are reverts. I know that quite a few people have offered, you know, and said, I have a few revert friends, do you want me to get in touch with them? To begin with, again, with one step at a time, I wasn't ready. And then I went to that friend and went, I think I'm ready now. Can I have a chat with them? So it's so important to connect with people and talk to people. For me, I'm in lockdown right now, so that's been something which has been a very interesting time, because but I will do that in another podcast. But yes, so it's so important to have friends around you and to just be able to talk things through. Yeah. And then my final tip is to be kind to yourself. I am someone who puts so much pressure on myself I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I'm really badly working on that. So I don't have to be perfect. I just have to have the intention and try my best. In the past 2 weeks, I'm going to just let you know what has happened to me. My granddad went and broke his hip and ended up in hospital. In that hospital, he contracted coronavirus, and we had the panic of my granddad, who is 79, testing positive for coronavirus. Then about 5 days later, I started to get extremely ill. I started getting a bit of a cough, I started feeling really off, and I started to get, and so all that effort that I was putting in, I realised that I was getting extremely exhausted. I don't know whether it was the period of time that I exhausted myself, but in the end I did contract some sort of virus. I was struggling to breathe. A couple of days later, I couldn't sleep. I had extreme pain in my neck that I couldn't move. So in the end, I called 111 and called the NHS number and was like, look, I'm really ill right now. I'm really scared that I could actually have got coronavirus as well. And that was really scary. And I then had to go to hospital A&E, and they looked at me. They did all different, like they did blood pressure, they did my temperature, and they said, like, look, you're really ill, but you're not in a life-threatening situation. So the government policy in the UK was that I wouldn't be tested, and I just had to go home and self-isolate. So now I've been self-isolating, and that's been extremely difficult. I have to eat in my room. In some ways it makes my life somewhat easier, because I also am preparing for 6 exams. So I have an exam tomorrow. So that's a bit insane that I've been so ill. and here I am having to prepare for an exam. At the same time, my mum, I won't go into it, but it has a few issues and is really struggling at the moment. So and my brother's also got exams. So my household is insane. I've just gone through one of the biggest transformations of my life, and I'm feeling really overwhelmed. And when I list everything that's going on, and that's all since I said my Shahada 2.5 weeks ago, like, it's insane. And at the same time, I'm like one at a time telling my friends, and like, I need to be kind to myself. Don't put so much expectation to be praying 5 times a day, to be reading the Quran loads. Like, yes, I want to be doing that, I really do, but I'm ill, I'm tired. I spent last weekend completely in bed. I had a temperature, I was shivering, I was just really ill, and honestly now I'm still ill. I've got a bit of a headache, I'm shattered. But, you know, I have to be kind to myself. I can't put pressure on myself to, you know, suddenly go from this one religion to be perfect in another religion. It's not realistic. So what I would like to say is that everyone has things going on in their life. So don't put expectation on yourself to suddenly like be perfect. Like, we can't ever be perfect. And so you should never put that expectation on yourself, but just put everything in perspective. Don't just suddenly go, you know, I have to do everything all at once, because, you know, everything's still up in the air. You're just learning. They like to say to me, oh, you're just a newborn baby. But like a baby, you know, I've got to crawl before I walk and walk before I run. And if crawling means that I have to do that for the next 6 months or even a year, that's okay. Everyone has their own path. You shouldn't be comparing yourself to others. You shouldn't be like, oh, look at that Revert, like, she's doing this and she's doing that and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. Like, everyone has their own path, and it's your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in the end, you just, again, as I just want to reinforce, be kind to yourself. Don't put too much expectation on yourself. Now you're going to hear me struggling really bad one night, and I decided to record and be able.
It is currently 5:40 a.m. and I've been awake since 2 a.m. You know, I've been overthinking, I've been worrying, and it's just really hard to think that everything has just suddenly changed, and I want to know that what I believe is correct, but sometimes it's just like you have all these doubts and you've researched so much and it just feels overwhelming and you can't get your brain to stop. Change is one of the hardest things, and to just suddenly change the whole thing that your life is based upon, it's like both incredible and life-shattering at the same time. And it's just taking me a while to just breathe and transition. And I'm just anxious and overwhelmed and so happy at the same time. But I still have so many things that are unknown and so many doubts. So, yeah. But God is still in control, and I will keep trusting and keep praying that I will be led constantly to the truth. Ameen.
From that, you can see that it wasn't easy. It isn't easy. So just be kind to yourself. Take one step at a time, and please lean on your friends. I know personally it is a journey day by day. There are some days and sometimes that I feel, you know, that I'm doing really well, and there's some days where I have all these doubts and I'm overthinking and I'm scared about the future and I am overwhelmed about what's happening this, and it doesn't help that I'm also in lockdown. I don't have a chance to go talk to my friends face to face. So it's really difficult to change everything that you believe. It really is. And you know, it's okay if you have doubts and questions. Islam encourages that. Constantly be asking questions, constantly ask your friends, constantly ask if you know any imams or anything like that, do ask them questions as well. And yeah, so that's where I'm at. There's some days where I'm good. I still get extremely anxious about things. I get really overwhelmed. Yesterday was the first day that I actually started praying since I've been unwell. And I'm going to be constantly making mistakes because I just don't know any better. And Allah is all-knowing, so that's okay. And that's all my tips for now. Next week we will be doing about my research and readings and what I would recommend to reverts. And so one last thing, Muslims who have known me reverts or have friends who are reverts, they need you because their family are not supporting them completely. So that you as their friends are their support network. So be there for them, message them, make sure you call them, be open to be interrupted by an anxious call, because sometimes it's really difficult. And it's an honor to go on a journey with someone who's learning new things, because you'll learn new things as well. So please be there for your new brothers and sisters in this faith, and inshallah I will hopefully be there for my brothers and sisters as well in the future. So that's it for this podcast. Inshallah you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for listening. So assalamu alaikum, until next time.